Hello, fellow creators. Is a shift in consciousness about to happen? Are you about to expand your awareness? What if the way you felt everything around you changed? What if you realized you could create anything with elevated emotions and a clear intention, as we've talked about before? And what's exciting about this is you become the creator in your life. You become the operant power. So here's Dr. Joe Dispenza on how to do that.
There's a new normal that's beginning to take place, a new standard where people are beginning to go, it is possible. I'm in such an interesting place because I never thought that I would see what I'm witnessing in my lifetime in the way people are engaging in this work. In fact, it's like the 4-minute mile. You know, the 4-minute mile is just a barrier of consciousness, and now I'm seeing people, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, with stage 4 cancer or Parkinson's disease or lupus or tumors or whatever. They stand in front of an audience and they say, I'm completely cancer-free. And they tell their story, and it's not glamorous, I want you to know. They've lost everything. They've lost their job, they had bankruptcy, they were sick, they lost people. I mean, they were challenged, and they kept doing the work. They could have said, I don't feel like it, I'm too tired, I'm too sick, it takes too long, I have too many things to do. They never excused themselves from that effort. And so when you witness that in an audience,
again and again.
Again and again and again.
Yeah.
Not only are you piercing a veil of consciousness like the 4-minute mile that allows other people to do it, but it's not only in the field, but you're witnessing the evidence, and you cannot go back to being the same person again. So the woman is 68 years old. She has Parkinson's disease. Her face was paralyzed. She couldn't do many things. She could barely speak. And now she's standing on the stage telling her story, and she's jumping up and down. And you have to think, well, if it happens to her, it could possibly happen to me. So then there's a new normal that's beginning to take place, a new standard where people are beginning to go, it is possible. Now I understand that I can upregulate new genes and downregulate old genes. Now I can rewire my brain, that I'm not doomed to this. And so when just like an infection spreads amongst the community and creates a disease, I believe that health and wellness can be as infectious as disease. And you get enough people together, you start seeing those miraculous things. And so I believe now in watching people that every time somebody makes the effort or has a transformation, that information is in the field, it's in the quantum. But at the same time, it's also being spread in three-dimensional reality because the evidence is here. So we have the measurements to prove it, we have the people's experience to prove it, and we have momentum. And so some people, the true pathfinders, the trailblazers, some of them, it took them 3 years to reverse a genetic condition that the doctor said was impossible to change. Now, people who have seen that person with the same condition that they have are doing it in a shorter amount of time. So there's a momentum because there's a shift in consciousness. So I've seen it take years for certain people, long haul, but they made it. But they laid footprints. This is a time in history where it's not enough to know. This is a time in history to know how. And evidence speaks for itself. That's why we've done so many brain scans and so many HRV measurements and genetic tests and telomere tests and immune system regulation and energy tests, because I want people to see the evidence. It's not just in their mind, it's in their brain. It's in their body. We want to prove to people that it's possible. So then you scratch your head and say, if that happens to that person, they don't look like a movie star, they don't look like a famous person, they're not a Buddhist monk, they just look like a normal person.
Right, yes.
And then some, they're not all vegetarians, and they're not all celibate, and they don't, some of them drink wine. I mean, they're just normal people. And that, I think that creates some type of community that transcends all the things that people do matter to matter, You do all the right things matter to matter, you change your diet, you exercise, it's all important. But if you're living by some emotion, if the environment signals the gene, and the end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion, you live by the same emotion every single day, you're signaling the same gene in the same way. And sooner or later, that gene's going to begin to break down. Change your emotional state and understand why you're doing it and assign meaning to it. And every day you get up in a different emotional state, You are knocking on the genetic door, and sooner or later you're going to reprogram that gene.
Yes.
You've seen it. You know, I know a few things now. I now know that after looking at all these brain scans and studying people, I believe that you and I are at our absolute best when we get beyond ourselves. When you forget about yourself, that is the moment you are connecting to something greater. The first couple days of these week-long events, people come for all kinds of reasons. They have a disease, they have a loss, they want a new life, they want a new relationship, they want to have a mystical experience. They just want to learn, all different reasons. And that first day, they come with all their problems, all their thoughts, they're pretty much beat up from their environment. And we get them through that first day where they start to connect. And by that second day, they start really starting to feel a change. Once that happens, and people start popping, then I know then I'm going to work with the group to create that ecstatic state where that's where the miraculous happens. And I also know that I never try to do it the same way as I did the time before, because in the quantum, there's predictability and repetition are two things you just can't do. So I trust the audience, I trust the movement. We have usually 40 to 50 different cultures at our week-long events from all over the world. They're large events, and we have such a strong community, and that community is bound by love. It's bound by elevated states. So it happens all different ways, but the outcomes are always the same, that there we witness the miraculous. Over the last 6 years, we have done extensive scientific tests on meditation, the work that we do. And we're interested in creating brain coherence, brain order, synchronization, and heart coherence. And our students, based on our measurements, can do that very well. But they're doing it in a room with 1,000 people. The music's playing, it's quiet, it's soft, it's beautiful, they're comfortable, and they can relax into it and really work on their inner world and actually follow the instructions and be able to connect to that process. It's a formula. So I started thinking when we started doing these week-long events, well, what if we create an activity that would normally bring up an emotion, stressful emotion like fear. Or doubt or unworthiness, or voices in their head start running, and in that moment, eyes open, when it counts the most, to be able to self-regulate, to stop and realize that they can settle their brain and body down and practice it now with the condition that would be challenging them. So we've done 7 or so events, week-long events. And when I went to Toronto, I was doing a lecture there, and I went and checked out the hotel we were negotiating with. And there was no room for the course that we normally create. So the only way to go was up. So I looked at the building and I thought, okay, this would be an edge. That would be a great teaching if people could come to their edge. We all have an edge in our life.
Yes.
And be able to, in that moment when fear could really grip you, to make one of two choices. Either to forget everything you learn and go into panic mode and go back into survival, or say, I got this, just give me a minute and let me regulate here, and begin to practice what they've learned and take it to the next level. Now what's the importance of that? If they can go over the edge and literally change that, when they come to the edge in their life, to the challenge in their life that normally causes them to go unconscious and run a program, that in that moment in their life, this is when it matters the most. That's just a metaphor. When they do it in their life and they're able to self-regulate, they'll be more kind and more compassionate and more aware and more caring and more loving and more giving when everybody else is being angry and hostile and fearful. This is the test right here. And if the scale of that event is so challenging that when they face the problems in their life, they're going to be like, are you kidding me? I just went over the edge of 38 floors. This is nothing. And so their perception about the challenges in their life begin to change as well. And so we've had numerous breakthroughs. We had people of all ages doing it, and there's a teaching that goes with it, because this is not an adrenaline high. This is not what I'm teaching. I don't want it to be an adrenaline rush. I actually am after the opposite. I'm asking for them to take adrenaline and settle it down and change their brain and body in that moment so they can overcome that emotional state. So if you can do it in that moment, that is the moment that matters the most. Then when you come to the edge in your life, you're going to move through that edge, and then there'll be another edge.
Another edge.
And you got to move through that. But at least you'll have the tool to be able to do it without just reacting unconsciously. So, and so many people, you know, the emails that we get now, so many people are just saying, my life just seems just so easy. I'm just moving through it so much easier. I'm not reacting to the same conditions. I'm so glad I went over the edge. Now, that doesn't mean that it wasn't scary for them, but we're giving them a meditation to do so they can get in the right state, and then they walk out and they stay in that state. They keep their energy up. And if you have an opportunity to heal another person, and you're getting really good at this, you're not going to say, oh, wait a second, I got to go do a meditation and come back.
Right.
That's not where we're
Right.
going. You got to be able to say, okay, let me just change my state. And you got to be able to do it with your eyes open. You got to be able to do it on command, right on the spot. That's where we're going. And
Right.
so now we have to bridge the inner world with the outer world. We have to begin to execute or demonstrate what we've been doing. And so the training now is not just doing it in the meditative state. The training now is doing it in your life. That's when it matters the most.
Welcome back, fellow creators. So I hope you're feeling a shift in your awareness. I hope your consciousness is rising, because truly, when we have that powerful intention, we know exactly what we want to create, and we amplify that through elevated emotions. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, you can't create. There's nothing you can't be or do or have. It's an amazing universe when we start to realize that. But it doesn't just happen by textbook knowledge. It doesn't just by happening by even watching a video and saying, okay, I'll do that. You have to sit down, really know what you want, and get that elevated emotions as if you already had it. A lot of people say, hey, if I get the money first, then I'll feel good. If I get the relationship first, then I'll feel amazing. If I get A, X, Y, B, or C first, I'll feel great. But why? Why can't you feel like that now? Why can't you make that shift to how you would feel if you already had it? Because then you're signaling to the universe, I'm not living in lack. I'm not living in loneliness. I'm living in happiness, abundance, and I'm living an amazing life. I'm living the possibilities that I believe that I want. And when you do that, amazing things happen, and the shift will happen with a clear intention and elevated emotions. So, everyone, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like this video, and leave me a comment below. Thanks for watching. All the best.